You know when the one thing you case filed on drops? Thank you, Ryan, by the way. The Sudanese national military has been committing indiscriminate genocide in the Darfur region for almost a decade. In 2018, after the Sudanese revolution that took out Omar al-Bashir, they ousted him in a conflict. There has been a lot of a lot of violence over the control of the region, which has led to a gross genocide in the Darfur region, and over 15,000 people dead since April of 2023. This is one of the biggest examples of displacement, where over 5 million people have been displaced in the region. Broadly, what has happened, and what is the counterfactual that opposition has to defend unless they somehow manage to create one out of the ether, is three things. The first is that the United Arab Emirates have been trying to give aid that broadly has not been really useful. This is the part that straight up comes from what I read from Ryan's case file. Well, the claims to help refugees are actually using humanitarian facilities to supply weapons and medical aid to the RSF. The RSF is basically a most violent group that is perpetuating this genocide. The second is that they had talks in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, which literally went nowhere. And the third thing that they did is Macron gave $2 billion in aid $2 billion a couple of months ago, which literally went nowhere, because it is incredibly hard to do anything unless you actually have boots on the ground protecting communities and making sure that the RSF is ousted out of the nation. Yeah.
Are you intervening in favor of the SAF against the RSF, and who is doing the intervention?
Yeah, if you wait fucking 20 seconds, I can finish explaining the framing. So the intervention looks like this. It is the United Nations, the African Union, and Western powers such as the United States and like the United Kingdom going in to do three main things. First of all, stabilize Darfur. The types of things you do is create, like set on the ground, particular units such that you can have targeted operations to kill leaders of the RSF, to kill terrorists and radicals in the region. Second of all, you protect civilians from armed conflict. You create safe zones in which civilians can actually contact with UN peacekeepers, where they can be protected by the military of the United States. And third, and most importantly, this serves as a humanitarian aid corridor. In absence of any of this, I think the counterfactual is literally non-existent. Boots on the ground are likely to be successful for many reasons. The first is, I would note, this terrain is particularly easy. It is a lot more similar to Kosovo than it is to Yemen. Ilya beat me in this motion, because it is particularly hard to intervene in Yemen, for example, because the natural and geographical composition of the nation makes it such that local units have a lot of tactical advantage, but also because they can just hide in the jungle. This doesn't fucking happen. It is incredibly easy to intervene in the sense that you have a lot of control of the region. It is not as massive. These groups do not have super massive control of particular areas in terms of that you can't actually tap into. So what are we going to do, and why do we think it's going to be successful? The first thing I would note is I think a humanitarian aid corridor is likely to be successful for a couple of reasons. The first is I think there is particular pushback against the worst forms of intervention from the actors that we're talking about right now. And so I think there is a significant disincentive from intervening in the most violent, most radical ways. And I also think that for the reasons that opposition might describe, it is not as easy for you to just carry out a 10-year-long military operation just because you are maintaining different types of wars. And to be clear, this compares to the best version of oppositions, because what I'm trying to say here is we might have to trade off some things, and this might not be fully recovering the country. But I think the thing that is cheap to do is to send food, it is to send aid, it is to help women who, for example, are dying at alarming rates, compared to men, for example, by lost pregnancies, etc. So I think that this looks like a couple of things. The first is UN peacekeepers, who in general have significant training and incentives to protect communities and to hold, I'll take you in a second, communities accountable. In most instances, will manifest in the region. Actually, yeah, sure.
UN peacekeepers already have an existing operation in Sudan, so you have to advocate a change to this.
Yeah, 100%. I just don't, so the first thing to note is a group of UN peacekeepers was murdered last year just because there was no military protection. The only thing that we do is, have the guys with the guns next to them, which genuinely ensures that this is a lot more likely to happen. But the second and more significant mechanism here is I think there is a significant capacity that the United States has of having particularly targeted operations like it happened in Kosovo, like it's happened in other parts of Africa. The main thing I would note here is the types of groups that you are facing are particularly violent ones. These are paramilitary groups who have very significant incentives, of course, of escalating the conflict, still engaging with the best version of opposition. But the issue is, this is symmetric, because clearly there are still groups that are not just going to surrender. So if opposition wants to run the narrative of surely we don't save things, but things just don't get worse, this is not likely to be true, because then the civilian government is still funding and trying to ask for aid for particular pushback against these groups, i.e. the UAE is giving aid to these particular groups. This conflict is evolving into a proxy war. It is unlikely that you are going to just see this stop or just stagnate. It is likely to just continue escalating. And to be very clear, these are some of the most violent and indiscriminate acts in the world. In absence of troops to deter them in the ways that I'm going to describe right now,